Breaking news as we come on the air tonight, Paris under attack. Multiple deadly shootings and explosions unleashed, among them explosions near the country's main sports stadium. The president of France raced from the stadium to safety. Shootings at a theater where a siege is underway with many hostages inside. And word the attacks included at least one Paris restaurant. Sirens heard throughout central Paris tonight, dozens believed dead. Our entire team is on this tonight. A special edition of World News Tonight begins now.
This is ABC World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, and we begin tonight live on the air with the horror unfolding in Paris as we come on. That city under attack. Dozens are believed dead. Police sources telling the Associated Press tonight that some of these attacks were, in fact, suicide attacks. A series of explosions and shootings all within a short time of one another. One of the explosions at the main sports stadium in Paris, and you could hear it. Take a listen. Explosion right there, leaving the thousands of spectators and the French president who was there stunned. President Hollande could be seen, his hand to his face. He was evacuated from the stadium to safety. People then hugging inside the stadium in disbelief. Meantime, as this played out across the city, several deadly scenes, SWAT teams racing in, a concert hall under siege for quite some time, and we're learning as we come on the air that they have stormed the concert hall, that the police operation is in fact over, and that some of the attackers have been killed. No word on the people inside. A deadly scene outside this restaurant as well. You can see the firefighters outside answering the scene, trying to help the people. And look at this woman here being held by one member of the SWAT team, the terror right on her face. I want to bring in ABC News producer Louise Duwast outside that concert hall to lead us off. And Louise, as you heard me report there, we understand the police operation now over?
Yes, it definitely looks like that. There's some movement here, and I can see about more than a dozen ambulances right now driving towards the concert venue. So they were waiting here, and we could hear the sirens, and they couldn't move in a while ago because the operation was ongoing. But now it seems like they are allowed to approach the concert venue.
We know some French media, Louise, reporting that some of the attackers have in fact been killed, but we're hearing very little word about the people inside. By some estimates, it was more than 100. Some said there was a real fear that that number was much higher. What do we know at this hour?
That's correct. Well, the Bataclan, as it's called, is a very, very popular concert venue in Paris. And obviously on a Friday night, it's very possible that there could be up to 200 people in the concert venue right now. But the numbers are unconfirmed at this stage. But at least 100 is what we're hearing from police sources.
And Louise, what do we know about the other scenes where these deadly attacks unfolded late today in Paris, the stadium and the restaurant scene as well?
Well, earlier I was actually at the restaurant where the shooting took place, and we're hearing dozens were killed there. And just before that, several explosions at the stadium. So the overall toll here in Paris tonight could be very high.
All right, Louise Duwast, our ABC News producer based in Paris outside the concert hall. Louise, stay tuned. We will come back to you as we're on the air when you have more developments. In the meantime, the French president saying just moments ago that this is unprecedented, urging French families to stay indoors tonight. The French borders have been closed, taking action very quickly. Of course, they went through this just a few months back with the Charlie Hebdo attacks. This time, closing those borders much more swiftly. And we get a better picture of the portrait unfolding tonight, the timeline, from ABC's chief global affairs correspondent, Martha Raddatz.
Across Paris tonight, scenes of terror. These pictures coming in on social media, victims crying in agony, injured on the ground. Police now surrounding this theater in the French capital. Reports of up to at least 100 hostages held inside. Witnesses tell French TV they heard the gunman screaming Allahu Akbar. An American rock band scheduled to play there. The siege still unfolding. Earlier this evening, huge explosions heard at the giant Stade de France. Thousands of spectators packing the stands, including French President François Hollande, quickly whisked to safety. At least 3 people reported dead there. Massive confusion outside. Across town, gunmen, reportedly with automatic weapons, opening fire inside a restaurant.
We were sitting right at the window when there was numerous gunshots directed at the window towards the restaurant that we were eating in. We immediately dropped to the floor with all the other diners. I noticed the woman next to me had a fatal injury. I think perhaps it was towards her chest, and there was a couple of other fatal injuries I witnessed.
In the aftermath, chaos outside, sheets covering bodies. Elite police troops tonight deployed throughout Paris, at least 50 dead. Police sources say the attacks appear coordinated. They come less than a year after two terrorists opened fire inside the office of satirical magazine Charlie Hebdo. That, also part of a coordinated attack, another attacker mounting a deadly siege inside a Jewish supermarket.
And Martha Raddatz with us now live from our Washington bureau. And Martha, as you heard me report at the top, police now reporting that the assault on that Paris concert, their operation with those hostages against them is over. The terrorists, at least two of the attackers have been killed. But Martha, we're getting very little word at this hour about the people, the hostages who were being held inside.
Very little word or how many were hurt or how many were killed, but we do have some information, David, from the brother of one of the band members who spoke to one of our affiliates. He said they were playing about 6 songs into the show. They heard before they saw anything automatic machine gun fire. It was so loud, it was louder than the band. They hit the stage floor. As they got up to try to evacuate, they saw men with machine guns just shooting anything and everything in the venue. They said there were 1,500 people capacity of the venue. We're not sure there were 1,500 people in there. He said, I don't know if it was seated or standing, but the lead singer and some of the crew, there was a door back of the stage that led to the street, and they flew out the back door. Other reports that they don't know where all the band members are, but this from the brother of one of the band members, according to our affiliate who talked to them. Again, it will be a while, I think, before we know exactly what happened in there, how many of those hostages were injured, but clearly with the police going in there, David, as you know, they thought that death was imminent for some of those hostages because they would have wanted to talk to those people who got out to see where the hostage takers were, how they were armed, so they could go in as carefully as possible to save the lives of as many hostages as possible.
And that certainly is the hope tonight, that they saved so many of them. But when you hear about them opening fire with their machine guns with a capacity crowd, Martha, that's a terrifying thought. Let's bring in our chief investigative correspondent, Brian Ross, tonight, who's been working his sources. And as we heard Martha report there, our affiliate WSB, they're reporting about this California-based band that was performing at the concert hall. And we should just let everyone know at home that the brother, who lives here in Georgia, has now reported that the station that his brother and the band, okay, they're now at a police station in Paris, likely being questioned about what they saw unfold inside.
They got out a very popular California-based band, the Eagles of death metal, sold out across Europe. They had a sold-out concert scheduled there tonight, David. What this shows, I think, is the vulnerability of a free and open society, where a handful, or maybe up to a dozen gunmen, can paralyze a city as they have Paris tonight.
And there are some reports that some of these attacks, at least some of them, were suicide attacks, and you've reported many times that is the fear here on the home front.
Exactly, and this has all the earmarks of a well-planned, well-coordinated attack by a serious terror group. It's not clear tonight from talking to U.S. intelligence officials just which group was responsible. Could it be ISIS or al-Qaeda? Either would be a candidate for this, but this was clearly well-planned, far in advance, not a reaction to anything that might have happened in the last few days.
And the fact that we have not heard about the condition of the hostages inside the theater is a frightening thought.
It absolutely is, and it's clear to the French police that, as happened in other cases like this would not end well. They had to go in right away because that would minimize the loss of life.
Brian Ross with us here. Brian, we'll check back in with you as soon as you hear from your sources. In the meantime, to President Obama, speaking in the White House briefing room a short time ago, calling this a heartbreaking situation, saying we stand with the people of France.
This is an attack not just on Paris. It's an attack not just on the people of France, but this is an attack on all of humanity and the universal values that we share. we stand prepared and ready to provide whatever assistance that the government and the people of France need to respond. France is our oldest ally. The French people have stood shoulder to shoulder with the United States time and again. And we want to be very clear that we stand together with them in the fight against terrorism and extremism. Paris itself represents the timeless values of human progress. Those who think that they can terrorize the people of France or the values that they stand for are wrong.
I want to bring in our chief White House correspondent, Jonathan Karl, live tonight at the White House. And this struck me, the words of the president saying we stand with France, because, John, it was just a few months back, last January, when the president was saying nearly the same thing after the Charlie Hebdo attacks.
Yes, and what appears to be another major setback in the fight against terrorism. And David, look at what has happened just in the past 2 weeks. On Halloween, you had the Russian airliner leaving from Egypt that was taken down, believed by ISIS. Just yesterday, 40 people were killed, more than 40 people killed in Beirut. ISIS taking responsibility for those attacks, and now this. The events coming just as earlier today, before these attacks, David, the White House was touting progress in the battle against ISIS in Iraq and in Syria. Of course, Jihadi John, the British terrorist seen in all those beheading videos, believed to be taken out overnight in a drone strike. Progress with the Iraqi army against ISIS in Iraq, the Kurds making progress in another part of Iraq. But David, this is a reminder that the threat, the terror threat, goes far beyond Iraq and Syria.
John Karl live at the White House. And as we look at these pictures coming in, John, new reporting now at the scene inside that concert hall. We know that police have finished their operation, going into the theater, storming the theater to try to get to the attackers. It's believed at this hour that perhaps at least 2 of the attackers have been killed. There has been very little word on the condition of the hostages. Again, the number early on was at least 100 people, but it could be far more than that. One official now telling the Associated Press in Paris, describing the carnage inside the building, saying the attackers had tossed explosives at the hostages who were there for that concert. And as we heard Brian Ross report earlier, that band from California, a band member's brother back here at home in Georgia, reporting to our ABC affiliate WSB that the band is okay. They've been taken to a Paris police station, no doubt being questioned about what they witnessed inside that theater. Both officials who spoke to the Associated Press about the carnage inside now saying they expect the toll of the victims to rise significantly. And this has been the fear all afternoon and into the evening as we've been on the air with our coverage of the attack in Paris. I want to bring in ABC senior justice correspondent Pierre Thomas now. And Pierre, you've been reporting that you spoke with French officials in recent weeks who'd been concerned about these very scenes, but they were concerned given the fact that there was a major climate conference approaching in the coming weeks in Paris.
Exactly, David. I spoke with a senior official with the French National Police, and he talked about the pressure that they were under, dozens upon dozens of Islamic radical suspects that they were trying to monitor. And David, tonight, top U.S. law enforcement officials are on edge, concerned that what's happening in France may not be isolated.
Tonight, as the nightmare unfolds in France, U.S. Homeland Security and law enforcement officials have reached out to their French counterparts, looking for any hint of possible threats directed at the United States. So far, senior officials tell us, no specific threat has been identified, but police in major cities, including New York, are likely to step up security at key locations. The multiple attacks in France came as U.S. officials announced the targeting and possible killing of Jihadi John, who had emerged as a symbolic figure for ISIS and its followers. Some U.S. officials had worried that there might be a response. While we don't know yet who is behind the attacks in France, what happened there is precisely what U.S. officials have long been concerned about. Attacks on so-called soft targets, hotels, restaurants, malls, or individual members of the military, at the urging of ISIS, who has used social media to repeatedly call for violence.
So there is a device, almost a devil on their shoulder all day long saying, kill, 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 kill.
The FBI has uncovered hard evidence that ISIS does have a following here in the United States. In the last 2 years, more than 70 Americans have been arrested trying to join ISIS in Syria or for plotting attacks here at home. Just this week, an Ohio man was arrested for allegedly soliciting ISIS associates to murder members of the U.S. military.
So, David, make no mistake, tonight U.S. officials on high alert.
Pierre Thomas also with us tonight from our Washington Bureau. Pierre, thank you. I want to bring in Brad Garrett, who studies the behavior of these terror attacks and the telltale signs of these hostage situations. And Brad, the idea that they would go into this theater with such an enormous crowd, and as we heard moments ago, the Associated Press reporting a significant carnage, according to one official who has witnessed the scene. What does this tell you?
Well, it tells me they felt like they had no choice but to go in. What I find interesting, and we don't know the details, obviously, David, is it didn't appear to take that long. That may suggest there weren't that many bad guys inside when they entered. Hopefully they had intelligence of basic locations, type of weapons, and so what they would have done, go in, have a distraction, probably throw a flashbang, and then go directly toward the bad guys.
Matt Olson also with us, the former head of the National Counterterrorism Center and ABC News counterterrorism analyst. And Matt, we have been reporting all afternoon and into the evening here that the decision to go inside is made very carefully, given the fact that it could also backfire in some ways. They clearly thought they had no choice here.
Right. They must have decided that the odds were now in favor of simply going in, and waiting was not the right thing to do. You know, counterterrorism officials have learned a lot over the last several years about scenarios like this, multiple shooters, multiple locations. This is reminiscent of the attack in 2008 in Mumbai, India, which also involved multiple incidents. And counterterrorism officials learned from that incident not just to wait, but to go in when there was an opportunity to do so in an effort to save lives.
You make an excellent point, Matt, because French President Hollande speaking to the French public a short time ago saying stay indoors, but he also declared a state of emergency, which in effect closes the borders in France immediately. This was much sooner than what we saw last January after Charlie Hebdo.
Right. I think that they're reacting to what happened a year ago, but also to what appears to be a rather remarkable escalation in ISIS activity. Assuming this is ISIS in Paris, and again, we don't know that yet, but looking at what happened with the Russian airliner and then in Beirut, if this was ISIS, this is a remarkable escalation in the level of violence and their reach to the West.
Of course, we have to wait and see if, in fact, it is ISIS and who claims responsibility. Matt Olson, Brad Garrett, our entire team staying with us as we continue our live coverage here on World News Tonight. Paris under attack. Now on World News Tonight, this special edition covering Paris under attack tonight, several coordinated attacks. And in fact, we're now learning that there were perhaps 4 coordinated attacks. We do know that the siege at that concert hall is now over. It's believed at least 2 attackers. 2 attackers have been killed. Police moving in fairly quickly. We have seen these scenes play out. It usually takes much longer before authorities will move in because they know that decision is a very delicate one, a precarious one. But they moved in fairly quickly, which would signal they knew the danger those hostages were facing inside that theater. We do know it was a capacity crowd, an American band performing on the stage. It's believed they are all okay. And at the Paris police station tonight, I want to bring in Louise Duwast, an ABC News producer on the scene there at the concert hall tonight. And Louise, it's my understanding that a local bar not far from the concert hall has now been turned into a sort of makeshift hospital.
That's correct. We've seen on French TV that a local bar near the concert venue has been transformed into a hospital, and wounded people from the concert venue are inside that restaurant. We have not been there yet. The area is closed off, but I have seen more than a dozen ambulances driving towards the concert venue here tonight, where we believe that at least 100 people were inside during the attack.
And that's believed to be a very conservative number, as you've been reporting, Louise. One official telling the Associated Press there in Paris, describing the, quote, carnage inside the building. I know that you've been held several blocks back, but is there any indication as of yet of the portrait emerging from inside that theater?
Not yet, but the Bataclan, as it's called, is a very popular venue in Paris, and on a Friday night, it's very possible that the numbers are much higher. They could be up to 200, but that number is unconfirmed at this stage. There's about 100 people in the street right now, and I'm actually seeing just in front of me more than a dozen, hundreds of elite forces right here, only a few blocks from the venue. But still unconfirmed reports of the exact number victims and people who were inside the concert venue tonight.
All right, Louise DeWast, our ABC News producer in Paris, outside the concert hall, being held back a couple of blocks. Now with our coverage of the deadly attacks on Paris as they unfolded late today, President Hollande canceling his G20 meeting in Turkey, also announcing he'll meet with his defense counsel first thing in the morning. And I want to bring in our chief global affairs correspondent, Martha Raddatz, as we're looking at these pictures coming in tonight. And Martha, I know we're going to stay away from these numbers because they can change rapidly in a scene like this, but we are beginning to hear details emerging from that concert theater, and we knew it was a capacity crowd, and it's a frightening thought about what authorities have found inside.
And from what we have heard, David, the brother of one of the band members playing was told by his brother that the attackers came inside with automatic weapons and opened fire into the crowd. So you have to think there were many casualties. And David, we also have to remember it's an American band. Did the attackers know an American band was playing there tonight? Were they the targets?
That is the question. Martha Raddatz tonight. Martha, thank you. And Vice President Joe Biden tweeting a moment ago, our hearts are with Paris tonight, and certainly that is the thought of the American people. Back with our reporting now, Paris under attack, and we do have some breaking developments coming in as we finish out World News Tonight. Police sources and French television now telling ABC News that more than 100 people have died in Paris in these coordinated attacks around the city. It's believed there were 4 attacks, including the attack at that concert theater where we know the siege is now over. The police operation now over. It's believed at least 2 attackers killed, but we await word of the scene inside that theater. I'm David Muir. We'll have a live edition of 2020 a bit later here. Until then.